Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another video. In this episode we're making a new shot for my animated film. In the last episode we looked at this shot, but today we're starting off fresh on a new one. My film is about rock climbing, and if you haven't seen my content before, or if you're new here, then do check out my channel because I have plenty of videos documenting the process of how I create these different shots that goes into this film. Now my film's subject is very nature focused, and as it's set here in the Alps, which has a ton of beautiful nature, though also a very dense infrastructure with pretty much societies and roads in every major valley. I want to start off my film by showing a populated view of this landscape, showing busy cities, roads filled with cars, landmarks that might indicate where we are in the world, before we then transition into a more serene environment. I think this could create a nice contrast and give us a calming feeling to kick things off with. I don't want this populated part to have a negative view to it. It's not like full of smog and industries, but rather just a busy world, then contrasted with a more calm and quiet one. Since I'm world building here, I am able to make up the environment however I want it to look like. Though I kind of like the idea of setting this film in a recognizable place in this world. And I live here in Innsbruck in Austria, and I'd like to include shots from this place in the film. The climbing part of the film will kind of be set in a more made up location. It doesn't have to be an actual place in the world. However, I do take a lot of reference from the surrounding areas here to create that sort of location, but it doesn't have to be a fixed destination. Though for these opening shots that feature this busy world in the Alps here, I have a few locations in mind I would like to include. Just south here of Innsbruck, we have this very tall bridge called the Europabrücke, or the Europe Bridge, which cuts across a very deep valley over the river Sill. I think a shot looking over this bridge full of traffic would make a really cool subject. So to paint this place, I reckon we actually just go down there and shoot some references. It's not far away, I can drive there pretty fast. And I'll bring my camera. It's a bright sunny day, so let's capture some references to paint from. So I think I'll be all right parking where I am standing here, but I'm just gonna walk over this little patch of asphalt, and then I should have a pretty decent view of the bridge. So let's have a look over here. There's quite a lot of bush in the way here, so I'm gonna try to make my way down somewhere over here maybe, and see if I can get down to a bit of a grass spot down here. Oh, it looks like people have been taking shits here as well. Let's see. Yum. Quite hard to find another spot that actually overlooks the bridge at all. So I'm pretty lucky that this place exists, because here I can really see this road sort of snake its way up and through the landscape here into the mountains. And I think this will work really well. So now it's just about getting a good composition here. Obviously I can paint whatever I want in the end, so I can change things, but I'm just trying to frame stuff to have some cool references so I don't have to do that at home later. But yeah, getting some shots here with my Blackmagic camera. Doesn't have to be high-res, this stuff, to be honest, but it's cool when you have it. You might as well shoot it in a good resolution. So I'm happy with some of the shots I got here. I'm gonna take this back to the studio and start painting this. So I'll see you guys there. I start by blocking out my composition with some simple line work. Making the road curve back into the hills here is a bit of a challenge in terms of perspective. I use a few guiding perspective lines going off into the distance to help me get the straight part of the bridge right, but I actually think the road goes a bit uphill on the far side of the bridge, so that's not making things easier either. I think this will work though, I just have to simplify it slightly. I then start to block in some colors. This is always one of the most critical moments in the painting stage, I find. Nothing really looks good in the beginning stages of a painting. Everything is muddy and monochrome, and it's easy to lose hope here and give up. But one just has to trust the process and keep problem solving. Painting is pretty much just that, you jumping around the canvas, making what looks shit look less shit till it suddenly starts to look good. Here I establish overall midtones first and then trying to block in where the shadows will go. I want the light to fall in here from the left hand side, hitting the bridge and having it cast a long shadow down on the trees on the right side of it. We could get some light illuminating the pillars below as well. So this is where I'm currently at with this shot. I think some things are working, some not so much. I feel like the whole composition is sort of leaning over a little bit on the right side of the canvas. This building up here is sort of hovering up on the edge of the canvas, so I think it either has to come in or get lost, and I think I'll bring it in. So I think we can just push everything over. So maybe if I just merge down everything on a new layer here, let's see, like so, we can just push it over maybe here. We don't want this to cut off at the edge, but I think that's still fine. The road isn't dead center, but it's sort of diagonally through the composition anyway, so I think that works. And then we just have to paint out these things, obviously, because now we've duplicated things. But that we can spend the time on, you know, fixing in a minute. Let's get rid of this shadow down there and put it down there instead. So something like this I think works better as a composition than that. We lost a bit of this wood, which I think we could afford to do anyways, because I think, yeah, it was just a lot of dead space otherwise. It's more centered, not dead centered, but we have now the road more as like a main feature of this shot. And when that's full of traffic, I think that will look really good. Something else I'd like to address are these background mountains. I think we can push them back into space even more by adding more blue to them and dropping some of the greens and yellows that we have in there, just to add more atmospheric perspective. So that will be something I'll tackle next as well. There are so many trees in this, and I will not be able to paint them all, nor do I desire to either. But I have put myself in a slightly tricky situation here, because I put my focal plane sort of where all these trees are. Like, this is the main focus in the middle here, but they sit on the same plane. And I can't just leave it sort of very loose, because then it looks unfinished. So I will have to, you know, figure out a way to render or suggest a bunch of trees without making it look too messy. So I think I will have to spend quite a bit of time on either side here to match the level of detail we get in the middle. But yeah, it's a fine line. If you had a lot of foreground elements, normally that's where your details would land, and then you could push things further back with less detail and more of like an abstract shape Like these mountains doesn't have to be fully rendered. I don't have to show trees here. It's more just shapes. But I think these trees needs a lot more work to take this painting to the level I want it to be at. So yeah, that'll be my next challenge. Tackle the background mountains, sort out this forest, and then yeah, we will have to start looking at traffic, of course. It took me a while before I found a way to render the trees without making them look too detailed, but not too undefined either. I think one key thing to consider when painting a forest like this is to vary the colors for different trees slightly, and also vary the types of trees that we see. There are a lot of conifer trees here, but also mixed with some leaf trees. So I think it looks good if I vary the shapes and not just have the same repeating shape over and over. I like the slightly looser brushwork I'm getting here, so I will try to keep some of that and not overly render every bit of this canvas. My focus will lay more in the center of the painting, around where the bridge and the far side of the bridge is located, so that's where I'll put a bit more details into the trees. I'm using a variety of brushes to paint this, some a bit more textured than others. I decided to stay away from using specific tree brushes, as that will add a repeating look that I don't really want. I used to rely more on that in the past, and I think they have their place. It can be good to block in with, but for paintings like this, I just don't want it. I prefer spending the time indicating the trees by hand. A similar approach as if I had to paint this non-digitally, I guess. I like using a textured yet simple brush that adds variety to the strokes, so it's not that super clean digital look that a hard brush, a hard round brush would give. We keep hearing people say that brushes don't matter, and even though that's true that you can paint pretty much anything with a default round brush, finding or creating brushes that aid your painting experience and that works in your favor, I think that's important. I don't think this will be the same brush for everyone. You have to experiment and find what works for you and your painting style. So I finally start to feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here. There was a time when I wasn't so sure about the composition and I felt like the colors were a bit muddy and nothing was really defined. But that's just how painting works, you just have to keep at it. But now I'm actually getting a bit excited because I like how these trees are turning out. I found a nice sort of mixture of details and suggestiveness. So it's not overly rendered, but it's still kind of showing up as a forest and as a bunch of trees. So I will try to apply that across the board. I also want to touch up these mountains a bit later on, define them a bit more, give them a bit more shape, show where the light is coming from. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep slaving away at this painting and I'll catch you guys in a bit. Even though I'm trying to paint trees here, I'm also looking for abstract shapes and patterns that will look pleasing. I like how we get clumps of conifer trees here with their slightly darker tones mixed with the lusher leaf trees in a more saturated and lighter green color. To be honest, at this stage I've almost switched off my brain and I'm just letting things go on autopilot. I might zoom out every now and then to check that I made some progress, but I sort of follow a formula for each tree, making sure that the bottom is darker than the top and indicating a brighter side towards where the sun is coming from. But then some trees will, shade others, so some can stay a bit darker than others too. And I just kind of keep going in that sort of pattern. Now these last kind of polishing touches takes quite a long time, and I'm not the fastest of painters either. And I've actually watched quite a few Netflix comedy specials while painting these final details. So you might have thought that I plowed through this with my artistic straight face on, but in reality I just sat around giggling. I think we did it. I think we finished the painting. There was a ton of trees in this one. I'm actually exhausted. There's this pole still up there, which I included in the beginning of the painting process. I thought this was gonna be some kind of power line going through it, but I actually feel like it's competing with this one a bit now. Like there's something on either side here. So maybe we just take this guy out, like so, and let the forest breathe on that side. We don't really need that one. The next thing to do is to tackle traffic here, but that'll be in the next episode. So make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube to not miss that one. That will come to you very shortly. If you want to see more content than what you see here on YouTube, you can join me on Patreon, where there's plenty of more videos to check out about animation and art. So if you enjoy this channel and want to support it, and also want to chat with me and others that are interested in the same stuff, then yeah, check out the Patreon page. We have quite a few people there now. And big thanks to all of you guys who already are subscribed over there. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't miss it, I promise you.